Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. So about 12 years ago, I was 9 years old, and I was home alone with my 12-year-old brother. We were supposed to go to my aunt's house to have lunch and wait for my mother there. We always did that because we were too young to stay home alone, according to my mom. We got up at 10:30 a.m. I took a shower, then my brother, and after that, we were both in the bathroom brushing our teeth and finishing up, when we heard someone knocking on our door. Since every time someone knocked at our door, they turned out to be some salesman or Jehovah's Witness, and we kind of waited for them to go away. But after a couple of minutes, I went to see if they were still outside through the window, and no one was there. What a relief. We continued getting ready when we saw a shadow go by through the bathroom window, which was kind of like a small square made with that kind of glass that makes everything behind it really blurry. We waited and saw in case it was just a bird flying by, when a hand hit it, clear as day. We got scared. We didn't know what to do. My brother had his cell phone, so he immediately called the police. And while it was ringing, we heard a loud bang at the door. Someone was brute forcing it, and I don't know if they were kicking it or ramming it, but it was one of the most frightening things that I have ever heard. My brother told me to lock the bathroom door, so I did. It took 5 bangs so the perpetrator could finally bash open the door. Then the police answered. I remember the exact thing my brother said, and he was whimpering. His voice could barely be heard. "Hello? There's someone in our house. I think they're stealing." Then a pause. "We are at..." and he gave them our address, and then another pause. "I'm with my little brother. We're locked in our bathroom. Please, hurry." While all that, I was sitting against the wall hugging my knees. It was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences ever. I could hear the man going through all of our stuff, emptying the stands, going up and down the stairs, opening cabinets, and he even broke a few cups and plates. I don't know why. Then I heard the sound of my cell phone when it turns off, and I remembered that I left it on the kitchen table. I felt so stupid for leaving it there, and things continued for a couple of minutes when we heard him trying to open the door to the bathroom. My brother got a hold of a big metal rod that we had lying around there, and he started kicking the door. "Who is there?" the man screamed. We said nothing. Another kick, then another, and I felt like I was about to have an anxiety attack. My chest started to ache, and I had chills, and I was really hot. I tried to remain calm, but it was just too much for me. After that he had stopped, we heard the door opening, and then silence. We waited for almost 10 minutes before going out of the bathroom. The living room was a total mess, lots of papers and books on the floor, and the cabinets were wide open. The cups and plates were all on the floor. And in our mother's bedroom, the nightstand and the closet were open, and everything inside them was all over the place. Upstairs in our room, it was the same thing. In about 5 minutes, the man was able to go through everything we had and left a total mess. After that, my brother called my mom, and she ordered us to go to my aunt's place ASAP, and so we did. When we got there, I was a little more relaxed. My aunt was waiting for us with ice cream, probably because my mom told her everything and she wanted us to calm down a bit. We went back home at about 5 p.m. and my mom told her boss that she had a home emergency, so she left early. She tidied up the house, cleaned up, and left everything the way it was before so we could be relaxed. I really appreciate her effort and my aunts to calm us down and do everything so we didn't have to think about it. According to my mom, the police got home after she arrived at around 3 p.m., 4 hours after the incident. She explained everything, but because of the lack of evidence, nothing could be done. The man was never caught, and honestly, I don't think they even tried to search for him. And the next days, my mom was home with us. Now, I tell you the story as a funny anecdote. Luckily, no one was hurt, and he only took useless stuff. But at that time, I was really scared. To a 9-year-old, an experience like that can have serious repercussions. I'm lucky that it never came to that, and I got over that after a couple of weeks. My dad and I were never close. I wasn't close to anyone from his side of the family, but his 2 younger brothers set off every internal alarm that I had. Uncle number 1 turned out to be molesting his stepdaughter, who he raised since she was an infant. And Uncle number 2 is who this post is about. I'll call him D. I have several siblings and we have many cousins living in our small town. They all think D is the best, lots of fun to be around, but I never warmed up to him. I didn't trust him, and he had a creepy vibe. I kept my distance, and my mom never made me hug or have physical contact with anyone that I was leery of. D lived next door to Grandma and seemed to always be down with some kind of illness. I was staying with Grandma for the day, and he was making food for D because he was sick. She fixes him a plate and tells me to take it over. I'm not happy about it, but I know better than to disobey, so I take the food next door. I walk in the door and he yells out and says to bring it back there. I walked into his bedroom and I set the plate on the wardrobe by the foot of the bed. D says he can't reach it there and to put it on the nightstand next to the bed. I take it and I set it on the nightstand, and D grabs my wrist. I panic and I pull away trying to get loose of him. He's pulling me towards him and I brace my foot against the nightstand and I resist and saying, "Let me go." He says, "I just want to talk to you." And I just say, "Let me go." I'm ready to leave that hand behind if necessary, and he finally lets go. I bolted out of the house, but I said nothing to Grandma. Later that evening, I tell my cousin, and she said that I'm stupid. He doesn't know why I'm the only kid that doesn't like him, and he just wanted to talk to me. That I should feel terrible about thinking that he was trying to pull me into his bed. What a terrible thing to say. I didn't mention it to anyone else, and I began to question if I was wrong, and I reacted badly. I felt guilty for a long time, but I still stayed away from him. As I've gotten older and look back, I think my reaction was correct. What adult tries to get a kid to warm up to them by grabbing them and then pulling them towards a bed? What adult continues to do this when they can see the child is terrified? You get a child to warm up to you by terrifying them? No, adults with good intentions don't do these things. We were obedient children. If he would have said, "Wait, I want to talk to you," I would have obeyed. D passed several years ago, and there were rumors about inappropriate behavior with young girls, but nothing more than rumors. And I still believe that I read the situation right. This happened years ago when I was barely 14. My middle school and my best friend's middle school organized a trip abroad to Great Britain, London to be exact, It's supposed to be a few days looking at London attractions, the museums and the shops, and it was fun. Until it wasn't. For the day before we were supposed to leave and go home, we were brought to the streets with some interesting shops, and we received free time for shopping. And then, our teachers and guide had a brilliant idea. They told us after the time for shopping ends that we have to meet at a different street than this. In retrospect, it was like 100 meters away, but they still shouldn't do that. Most of us have never been in London, and we barely speak English. We don't have a map of a city, and roaming services don't work correctly. 90% of the students got lost, and I got lost with my best friend because we went in the complete opposite direction, and we were both confused about the directions given to us. We were walking along the pavement, and my friend was either running ahead or staying behind and nervously look around. We didn't look like we were together because we were not interacting with each other. So I guess that's why this happened. My friend ran ahead and stopped to look around when I saw a black car approach me and then match my speed. I started to feel like this was a scene from a movie. It was broad daylight, and there was a lot of people around, and no one reacted. I was so confused, and I didn't know what was happening. Then, from the car stepped a man and said, "You look nice. Come with me," and then tried to grab me. The car was still running, so I suppose someone was still in it. I was stunned. I couldn't believe this was real. And at that moment, my friend ran from behind me, grabbed me, and then dragged me away. We ran and tried to lose the tail of a man or a car following us. And after some time, we stopped, and my friend nervously cried, shaking me and screaming on why I didn't move when the man tried to catch me. I explained that it was like a deer in the headlights kind of moment. And we cooled down and then managed to ask someone for help. And then we found our teachers. We didn't tell anyone about what happened. We were not sure if anyone would believe us. And after that, when we got back, I told my parents about it, and I never went on a trip organized by my school again. My mom considered all of that really unprofessional and very irresponsible. Like every good story, there is a beginning and an ending. This roller coaster of a story is still ongoing 2 years later with no end in sight. It all started when I wanted to further my education and get a bachelor's in information systems. To give a little about myself to help paint the picture, I'm 26, a 4'8" female, and I get called jailbait often because I look way younger. And during the beginning of my studies, my current boyfriend and I had broken up. So I told myself that it would be best to stay single until I finished school. And I took to the internet after my breakup, as most do, just looking for company. I had found this one group on Facebook where I felt like I belonged. I got along well with everyone, and I loved to flirt in this group. And that's where I met him. Let's call him Kemper. Like many others before him, I had latched my claws into him and began flirting. I even had a little crush on him. Things began innocently. I flirted, and he flirted back in the group. He seemed very mysterious though. I guess that's what drew me to him. He didn't have a profile picture, not of him at least, and he never told me his age or what he looked like. After a few weeks of flirting, a woman in the group that we were both in had mentioned that it was his birthday. I knew that I wanted to do something for him, but I was pretty limited on what I could do. Now, before I get hell for this, just know I have never, ever sent unsolicited topless pictures to another man. Not until that day, at least. On the pic, I wrote happy birthday, and then I insert his name, and I pressed the send button on the messenger. Just that split-second decision has changed my life the past 2 years. It's so easy looking back and thinking what you could have done differently, but there's no going back now. Within a week of talking non-stop to Kemper, he was already telling me that he loved me. He was working as a truck driver, but at that time he had broken his knee at work, so he was out of commission for a few months, which allowed him to talk to me as much as possible. During this time, I was working as a delivery driver with DoorDash, so it was easier for me to make my own schedule since I wasn't done with school yet. The first few months were great. We would talk constantly over the phone and through Messenger. And also, let me point out quickly that this was a long-distance relationship between Kemper and myself. So I remember the first fight that we ever had. Well, even before then, I could see the red flag slapping me in the face at every turn. However, our first fight was because I was texting him while driving. He flipped his lid and totally went crazy on me. It was very unexpected, and it made me cry, and I can't tell you how many times I tried to apologize and tell him that it wouldn't happen again. After the incident, I was blown away on how easily something so little, or at least I thought it was little, would make him do a complete 180. Months go by and the fights continue, more frequently. At one point, he had mentioned how cool it would be to have an app where we could see each other's location. In my naive and in-love state, I did some quick search and I found an app called Life360. We both downloaded the app, and now he could see everywhere I go. At first, it was a neat idea to say the least, to follow him around everywhere he went, to feel closer and more connected to him. That's what I use it for. Well, he, however, wanted to use it for different reasons. And I learned over time how controlling, manipulative, and how damn right psychotic he was. He would argue about things, and even when I get mad, he would somehow turn things around on me and make me feel like I'm the bad guy. The first time we broke up, it was a shit show. He had broken up with me on the group we were both in, just because that I flirted with another guy and he didn't like it. He was telling the other guys in the group how much of a whore I was and how they could have me. He even threatened to give out my address to the guys in the group so they can come to my house and well, I'm sure you get the idea. My friend, let's call him Aussie for the sake of the story. He was a member of the group, and he could tell how upset I was in the group comments, and he messaged me personally for the first time. Now, let me tell you, I don't know what it is, but seems like I attract monsters. Monster is the best way to describe Kemper and Aussie. They were both well-off men with the world at their fingertips. I guess that's part of the controlling bits, or showing aggression when they don't get their way about things. Before I go into more detail about Aussie, I just want to recount a few incidents with Kemper to give the readers a better understanding of what kind of a man he is and how dumb I am letting things to continue the way they have. One incident happened months ago. He and I were fighting, seemingly over nothing, and I was driving home from a long day of work and school, and Kemper just blurts out, "I wish you would just run off the road and into a ditch and die." I was speechless. The tears welled up in my eyes, and the driving became harder because I couldn't see. So, he almost got his wish. I had to stop at a Dollar General in my town to compose myself. I couldn't breathe. I was wheezing. The man I had thought I loved was wishing that I would die. If he hated me that much, why is he keeping me around then? I just wanted to curl into a ball at the moment and just disappear for a while. I didn't want to go home, but I couldn't just stay parked at Dollar General. I was really at a loss for what to do. And it wasn't until a while later where I told my mom and dad what he said. They were already getting their pitchforks ready, wanting to reenact the Salem witch trials because of him. And ever since then, they haven't liked him. Another incident, he and I were talking about meeting, and he told me that we would need the Menopause Act in place. Yeah, he made that up, but basically, he doesn't want to have sex in the off chance that we get pregnant. He told me that if I ever did get pregnant, he would make me have a maternity test to see if it's his, and then he would make me abort the child. He doesn't want kids, but I do, so of course I was really upset, and he made me cry yet again. Making me cry is a common occurrence with him for over the last 2 years. One night, another fight breaks out and he loves to drink beer. He loves to hurt me even more by saying that beer is his best friend and beer would never disappoint him like I do. During this late night phone call, he was extremely drunk and he was threatening to kill himself. I just couldn't take the arguing, so I bid him a good evening and let that be that I hung up on him. I received a large number of texts saying all sorts of things, but one really stood out. He wrote, "If I kill myself tonight, it will be because you made me do it." I didn't see this until the next morning, but you can imagine how panicked I was. My heart just sank, and of course, tears. He was good at making me feel like crap, good at manipulating, lying, controlling. It's just all becoming way too much, and it's really more than anyone should deal with no matter how much you love someone. And the next day, I begged him to get help for his drinking, his depression, and his suicidal behavior. But he just refuses. Being so far away, there's only so much that I can do. Kemper has anger issues along with so many other issues as well. I know I'm not perfect, but at least I don't act like he does. I'm very friendly and I get along with almost everyone. I guess that's part of his problem with me. We are complete opposites when it comes to that. And during our time together, I had gotten 2 other jobs at different times beside the DoorDash gig, and just part-time though. Notice that I said I had gotten 2 jobs? Well, the first one was at Walgreens. The very first day on the job, I was doing certifications for the job, and during the whole time, he was blowing up my phone, telling me that I don't need another job, or telling me that I won't have time for him, or that he would need to find someone else to replace the time that I had spent with him while also keeping me around. I just couldn't take it, so I quit. Fast forward a few months later, I get another job, and this one was at a Dollar General just at the town over. I did work there more than a day, but his bitching and nagging ultimately made me quit that job as well. I just recently had a talk with him about graduating soon and how I will find a job at a hospital working normal hours with better pay. Well, he didn't like that too much. He found some reason to be mad at me and start a fight, and he has gotten in the habit of ignoring me for a day or 2. He's even ignored me for a whole week now, and honestly, that was the most peace that I had gotten in a long time. Things have just drastically gone downhill and quick. He tells me all the time now how he doesn't trust me because I wanted to go on a date with a cop. This was some guy that I had met at a gas station down from where I lived and gave him my Snapchat. He seemed nice, and I was curious what kind of pics he would post on Snapchat, or pics that he would send me. When the cops sent a dick pic, that's when he was blocked. And yes, I told Kemper about this. This incident with a cop had happened on one of many times that Kemper and I have broken up. I do respect him, as weird as that is to say. I would never go on another date with another man or flirt with another guy, but I'm very friendly, and I guess some guys just take that the wrong way. Now, Kemper tells me all the time that I need to build trust because the incident with the cop has caused him to have trust issues. I even had a work colleague, yes, a guy, that works at a Mexican restaurant, offer free food. And boy, do I love me some Mexican food. I see this guy quite frequently, and I talk to him when I see him because I pick up the DoorDash orders from where he works. This guy has asked me out quite often, but I turn him down every time. So he asked me if I would like free Mexican food and we could just hang out at the restaurant and eat and talk as friends. I guess I really am naive because I learned later on that this guy had a crush on me. How did I find out that he had a crush on me, you ask? Well, I was talking to him one day, maybe about a week after he offered me free food, and just to hang. And he began to get extremely close to me, and then he kissed me on the lips, at the restaurant where customers were sitting around and eating. I jerked my head back and told him how inappropriate that was, and reminded him that I did in fact have a boyfriend, which he knew from the very beginning. I just don't understand, Ben. I know how bad it seems, and you're probably thinking that Kemper has every right to have trust issues, but I respect him in every way possible. And every time a certain situation like this happens, I handle it the best way that I know how, and I didn't want to make a scene with a waiter at the Mexican restaurant that kissed me. Now, in each fight Kemper and I have, he always tells me how much of a whore I am, or asks if I do OnlyFans, and he even told me the reason why I deleted Life 360 is because I'm going off at night with other men and eating their buttholes. His words, not mine. But no, the reason why I deleted the Life 360 app is because I needed to gain some of the control back and some of my privacy back. As of right now, Kemper and I will have the chance to meet this coming January 2023. Although, I'm really not sure about it. 2 years of ups and downs and him having my heart and ripping it out with its convenience for him has me thinking that it may not be the best idea. Also, it may be the fact that he has told me of his violent past with an ex-girlfriend of his. This happened many years ago, but it scares me knowing that he can be this violent. What had happened was, his girlfriend at the time was putting on makeup. He hates makeup, and they got into an altercation with him blacking out and him pinning her down to the bed and choking her. He didn't even realize what he was doing until he came to. He's told me lately that if he ever caught me in bed with another man, he would punch me in the face. Not the guy, simply because the man didn't know better, and I did. I spent a lot of time and effort into this relationship, wanting it to work out in the end, but honestly, I'm not sure if meeting would be the best thing to do, now or ever. So, let's talk about Aussie. He's a tad bit older than me. He's 49 years old, while Kemper is 48 years old. You would think they would be mature enough for their age. Well, Aussie is very mature. Kemper, not so much. Aussie and I began talking the first time Kemper and I had broken up. He was being a concerned friend and messaged me asking me what was going on. I spilled everything to him. He was like a best friend that I didn't know I had. He was so easy to talk to, and he even began opening up to me about his troubled upbringing. We would talk about everything and things began to escalate into a more sexual topic. He would tell me about his dark fantasies, which at one point I would have shared with him, but not so much anymore. I'm more vanilla nowadays when it comes to stuff like that, and after a month or so of talking, he too would begin to tell me he loved me, but only as a friend. I knew better than that, and it made me uncomfortable knowing that someone that I've only had a handful of conversations with, which mostly consisted of sex talk, would tell me that he loved me. Majority of the time, he would just exchange gifs with a few voice clips shared between us. Over time, I felt bad for talking to this man, but he was a comfort when Kemper and I had broken up. But our conversations went from semi-normal to just weird. Let me mention real quick, just like Kemper, he too didn't have a profile pic, but he would post pictures of himself on the group. So I knew what he looked like, and he was a very handsome man. After a while of talking to him, he would send me some other pictures which seemed to be newer pictures, which looked nothing like the pictures that he had posted in the group. I didn't make a fuss out of it, just assume that pictures in the group were older pictures. One day he had told me that he was getting a haircut. I was trying to be polite and ask for a picture to see the new haircut. And days later, he finally sent me that picture, but I wasn't sure who this person in the picture was. It looked absolutely nothing like the previous pictures he had sent me. And at that moment, I assumed that I was being catfished, but it didn't matter to me because looks really don't matter. A lot of the messages I receive from him is how he wants to breed me, or he refers to himself as Mr. Wolf, and tells me all the time how he wants to marry me and steal me away from Kemper and just get me pregnant. He talks all the time about how he would make a beautiful child and how he's very well off, so he would be able to have more children and how much of a great life we would have. He even goes out of his way to find gifs and pictures of naked pregnant women being forced into brutal things. Things tend to get even darker at times. He has told me that he wants to have his way with me in front of Kemper while he is tied to a chair, and then have his way with Kemper next. One time, he was talking about some women in the Facebook group we were in, and just women in general who would cheat on their husband and flirt with other men behind their husband's back. He would say how these women need to be taken care of. Well, not the exact word he used, but I hope you get where I'm going with that. He tells me all the time how he knows high-end people, how he's good friends with a governor, and that he can find any kind of information about someone if he needs to. It's truly scary to say the least if this is all true, and my gut feeling is telling me that it is, and it's just one of the many reasons that I began distancing myself from him. He's in the process of having a lawsuit settled, in which he would gain a large amount of money from it, which he really doesn't need. One day, he began sending me pictures of this piece of property with a large multi-million-dollar home with a cellar. He would tell me how he would convert the cellar into a dungeon and keep me there as his play toy. The more I write about things, the more I'm getting a better idea of how dangerous things can possibly be if I've ever met with either Kemper or Aussie. Aussie tells me all the time about his lawsuit and when it should be finished, and tells me how he would love to take my mom and myself to dinner. I talk about my mom quite often to him because she plays a big part in my life, and I love her more than anything. So, I live in the south by the Gulf, and Aussie has friends over in this area. He wants to meet a few of his Facebook friends that live in this area, and he had asked me to join him for a few weeks of traveling to meet some of his friends with him. And that is after his lawsuit is settled. That's a big nope from me. I barely even know him, much less his Facebook friends. So, this is my story so far. I'm not sure how things will turn out, but as of right now, let's not meet. Kemper and Aussie both scare me in ways that I can't explain. I do love Kemper with all of my heart, but he has a lot of issues that he needs to work on before I even consider meeting him, so it may never happen. I'm really hoping once I get a job working at a hospital that I will be able to find someone normal to date and spend the rest of my life with. Kemper tells me that sometimes I need to move on because he would never change, and I'm beginning to believe it. At the moment, I feel like things with Kemper will never go any further than how they are right now. It's hard though to get away from them, especially Kemper. He knows my address, my phone number, my email address, and he can even make multiple Facebook accounts to send me messages. Even one time, I had blocked Kemper on everything. He found a way to send me a message from an unknown number asking me to unblock him so we can talk. I have other stories that I can tell you about men that I never want to meet again. But this story is the one that has the most effect on my mental health. And here are the top comments from my last video. And here's the riddle for this video. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.